So welcome to a special bonus round of the Agile Austin Coaching Meetup. This is really a follow-on to a conversation that we started with Gabby Aragon of Roche Pharmaceuticals back in February of 2022. And Gabby really started to talk about the people and the EVOKE program that Roche is doing to undergo transformation. But I wanted to have an additional follow-on conversation about the data and the power of data and the power of data to optimize transformation there in a company. So I've asked Rudy Estrella to come back and have this conversation with me. And Rudy is part of the people analytics team there at Roche, and he's really kind of the driving force behind the data itself and the data analysis piece. So with that, I'm going to open things up and invite Rudy forward. And this is going to be an open, organic conversation. There's no scripting to it. He does have a few slides because I know he needs to help explain the math to me. But this is really to help our audience understand what goes on the data side of transformation and the like, because I've been fielding a lot of questions from people wanting to understand that side as well. So with that being said, Rudy, thank you for coming back and doing this. It is very much appreciated.
Thank you, Erin. Good morning. It's
Good
a pleasure
morning.
to be here with you.
Good.
Having this conversation about data and the power and the powerful things related with data analytics.
And I'm laughing because I'm like, it's 8:41 in the morning here in Austin, and we're already like, yeah, data, get in it. Yeah.
Go for it. Let's go for it.
All right. So Rudy, I know you've got a couple slides here that you wanted to start going through just to kind of set the context and the frame for that there. Can I ask you to share your screen and get started on that side? Awesome.
Sure. Give me a second, please. Let's see. Sure. Can you see my screen now? It says on the slide
I
that
do.
says people on, oh, perfect. I have a question. The screen of all of us are above all the slides, or it's okay?
Right now I have it to the side, but I can move it if that would be helpful.
Okay, so it's because I don't want to interrupt the recording of this with that. Okay,
we're all good.
So again, morning, Erin. Morning, everyone that is listening to us and watching us on YouTube or the platform you're using. As Erin said, today we're going to have a conversation about data and analytics and people analytics in specific. So today I want to share with you, not in the traditional way of an exposition. I want to touch on points like approaches of people analytics, the journey of people analytics in here in Roche, Central America and the Caribbean. And I want to give you some tools and tips about how to start this process. For example, how to capture data, what to capture the data, and the preconditions that are needed for that, tools for visualization, and some example of analytics and visualizations. So the idea is to give you some tools, some examples for you to start this journey in your organizations, your companies, your teams, etc.
And that's honestly what a lot of us need out there. We need to know kind of where do we start, meet us where we are and start from there. So thank you, Rudy.
Thank you. For me, it's a pleasure. So I don't know if you want to start with a general question, or we can go on with the slides.
By the way, everybody, there's Gabby again. Oh, no, look, there's my face up in the right-hand corner. Yeah. Can you skip forward, I think, a little bit, because you really started digging into the meat of this, a few slides in.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, I want to present myself, because I don't want to be a stranger in this. So I'm Rudy Estrella. I'm born in San Jose, Costa Rica. I'm a model of the 1996, and until today I have some years in analytical areas. I have a background in finance, but data analytics is behind all of that. The statistics is behind all of that. And currently I'm specializing, and I'm a student of data science, and I'm a student of statistics of health in the systems. Very recently, I'm there to lead train. Actually, last week we have that. We obtained that badge, and I'm very excited to share and to apply all that knowledge. As a person, of course, I'm a very passionate person for philosophy, literature, long walks in the mountains, and people, and of course, people development with purpose. So, and I guess that's kind of the idea that is one of the drivers that I'm here with you today, because of the development of people with purpose. And I really think that we can build a better world through powerful conversation and empathic actions. So that's kind of the link between people analytics, the people dimension, and the data analytics dimension. So nice to meet you all. So uh, well, I'm on behalf of this team. This is the core team of People Analytics: Gabi Aragon, Gabi Orozco, Carlos Torres, my boss, and I'm your your speaker today as data analyst for Roche. Well, I want to give you a little context first, because when we talk about data analytics, we can just jump into the data, how to capture it, because it requires context, and it requires theory, and it requires mindset. So in the first session with Gabi, she talked about the EVOKE program here in Roche, Central America and the Caribbean, that consists in a program that is focused on the development of a system, of a systemic muscle, with its systemic muscle, to live and embody 6 main mindsets that are growth and challenger thinking mindset, enterprise mindset, sustainable productivity mindset, network mindset, digital mindset, and value creation and customer focus. So this program is focused to develop that muscle. And when we talk about muscle, we talk about this. Why? Because all these mindsets are needed when we have to develop a project. We have to use them simultaneously, not just as a product or a sequence or a Lego block to use in this project. No, we need all the mindsets in the moment we are dealing with a team, with a problem, or developing a project. So that's kind of the idea when we talk about a muscle, right?
Yeah.
And we have an entire program to develop that. And people analytics and the data that is produced are the drivers to optimize that resources, or to optimize the program itself. So it's like a living organism that learns by itself. So that's kind of the context of the first session.
I think that will really help too, and kind of remind people where Gabi started with this conversation back in February. It was around, framing EVOKE and what it wanted to bring about. Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you. So, okay, let's start with theory and the context of people analytics for you to start this journey. Well, first of all, in the market, we have approaches, right? The most common approach we find is this one. It's a very cold way to see data, because the people analytics we commonly find in the market, it's about tracking sales, tracking time of the people, people management, to measure performance. And of course, I'm not minimizing all the achievement of this, but I want to make the difference. I want to show the difference. So, and we have, for example, staffing algorithms supported with the AI, artificial intelligence for talent of people, or to capture talent in the organizations. But this new approach we are developing with people analytics is an approach to capture measurements and powerful insights of a system. Yeah. Maybe most of the audience is our coaches, so the word system is kind of maybe the same, but when we talk about system, we're talking about people, teams, networking, enabling functions, etc. So it's to capture measurements and powerful insights of a system with their visible trends in mindsets and skills integration. So it's about this people analytics approach is about the being, the self, right? Instead of the cold ones, instead of the cold numbers of sales, time, staffing, performance, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know, Erin, if that's clear. I don't know if you want
No,
to
it
add
is clear.
something
And
or
I
if you
think
want.
it's an important point that you've drawn forward there. The measurements and insights of a system, about those visible trends in mindset and skill integration. Okay, that's really
Exactly.
important there. And yeah, a lot of the people that watch, and come to this meetup are coaches, but a lot of people aren't coaches either. And the thing is, as coaches, we often talk to other people in the organizations and systems that we serve, and being able to talk about those visible trends. What's the mindset shift that we're wanting to see? How are people integrating these skills? These are the things that we're really curious about. We want to know how to show that this is happening.
Exactly. And I want to add that how can we measure that impact or skills integration?
Oh,
How can that
yeah.
impact in the business? So here
That's
today, I'm
that's
going
it.
to
How
show
can
you
we measure the impact in the business? Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Today, I have an example of about how to measure that. So, but we have to be patient because it requires a lot of preconditions, right? So, okay.
All right.
And
I'm ready,
well,
Rudy.
thank you, Erin. I want to talk with you a bit of our journey here in Roche, Central America and the Caribbean, about people analytics until today, right? Because tomorrow it can evolve, or I don't know when can evolve by itself, or the data can tell us where to evolve or when to evolve. So last year we started with this first baseline
Mhm.
uh, in order to capture data. And that baseline consists in a self-assessment of each of us about certain mindsets and capabilities. So in a scale to 1 to 10, how I feel in my digital mindset or in my growth mindset, etc. And with those preset mindsets and capabilities, and with that first initial baseline, the team, between all the team or our teams, gave us or were giving us feedback of,
Yeah.
and that feedback consisted of in a measurement too, in a scale from 1 to 10, how I see Erin, how I see Rudy, how I see Gavi, etc.
Yeah.
So it runs for a couple of months, and we
Mhm.
have learnings. We have to put a line. Of course, we have learnings, and what those learnings what those learnings are. So with help of people analytics and data science, we have some learnings. I'm gonna show you, and I'm gonna be uh, as pedagogic as I can. So please feel free to ask. So you see, there's some math and some coding, but I want to explain you
Yeah.
in what consists this. Um, so we use some data science algorithms. For this case,
Mhm.
is named the principal component analysis. So we apply that math that you see on the left, and we obtain this circle. These circles, these circles show us how the mindsets
Right.
correlates. So we have 6 mindsets, for example, digital mindset, growth mindset, value creation mindset. And this algorithm shows how strong are they behaviors in the people of course, regarding these
Right.
mindsets. So we have two groups, well, two groups and one mindset, and kind of far from the others. Um, so we have those lines that says on the right side
Mhm.
of the slides, that says, if you can see there, mindset 5, 3, 2, or 1. So
Mhm.
there is a group of mindset that are very correlated. For
Yes.
example, I don't know, growth mindset and challenger thinking are very correlated or high or have a very high correlation or impact or incidence with value creation mindset, right?
Right.
So the most of the mindset are there, but we have that one that
That's
says
minor outlier of mindset 6. Yes.
exactly mindset 6, in a very interesting way, is digital mindset. So what does that
Mm.
mean? Digital mindset is not so is not so I don't know how to say it. very like close, or it doesn't have the same behavior like the other ones. So that's one learning. That learning led us to develop an entire program and invest resources to develop digital mindset in people.
Okay.
Why? Because we have to, okay, if digital mindset is not as correlated of the other ones, we have to put resources. So we optimize strategy. So we optimize investment in this to develop digital
Can
mindset.
I back up a little
Please.
bit and go back to the math?
Sure.
Did you all, I'm very, yeah, not that I can do the math. Let's be very clear. I can't do that math. Okay.
No.
But did you all have to tweak those algorithms a bit and, see what they were doing in order to get the visual outcome? Or was it, I'm curious about it.
Well, that's a good point. Well, that math that you see there is one part of the entire math of this model. So the math that you see there is that, like, to have the first component, or the first point of gravity to measure all the rest.
Mhm.
So we have to run this math several times in order to obtain that graph. With
Okay.
the coding that you see in the left side,
Yeah.
marking in gray, we obtain that visualization, that circle.
I have
I
a
don't know
feeling
if
my
that.
friend Rick is somewhere in the background wanting to talk about eigenvectors and the like, and we'll leave Rick in the background on that. But he's just one of the few people that I think would, really enjoy that crunchy math over there. Um,
Perfect. I love math and behind all of this.
yeah.
So this is one of the algorithm of data science or data mining processes that we
Hmm.
use. So we can run multiple algorithms in order to find the best of them, in order to measure these differences, in order to capture these differences, with the outcome, or with the objective to optimize resources, as I
Yeah.
was telling you. In this case, we find this pattern, we find this cluster, we find this mindset 6, that is digital mindset,
Yeah.
kind of far away of the other ones. So we have to invest money, we have to invest time to develop digital mindset in people, or maybe well, maybe not. We have to invest in that and to specify what digital mindset is.
Right.
Right.
So in other words, what I'm hearing is that by going in and doing the math, that you were able to understand more what was going on in the people side of things and knowing
Exactly.
where you needed to put more focus. Am I getting
Exactly.
that right? Okay.
That's exactly. Thank you. So today is not a focus about data science, but this is one of
That's a
the
different meetup. Yeah.
exactly. This is the learnings of the first baselines here in Roche, Central America and the Caribbean. An easier way to understand these correlations is this matrix. So
Mhm.
because all the light blues and the dark blues means the power, the positivity of the correlation between all the mindsets. So um, with a higher tone of blue, a, a better or
Mhm.
a higher correlation all the mindsets have between
Okay.
themselves. So this is another tool to see those correlations. Uh, so maybe remembering the
Yeah.
concept of system, each of these points are the people. Uh, so
Yeah.
we map the people with those lines that are the mindset, and we can find where the
Hmm.
people are. So
This is a great view too of seeing, that it makes it easier to understand. Yeah.
exactly. So the blue ones at the right side of the slide are people that are very that are influencers or they are role models of the mindsets.
Hmm.
And the pink ones in the left side are people that we have to work, or we have to invest more time. We have to
Bring them.
strategize these educational modules, this development program. So we understand the system with this.
Yeah. Question then already. So
Please.
this was done last summer. This was taken last summer, correct?
Correct.
2021. How often are you going back and, asking for people to respond so you get another look at the data? Have you done another cut since then?
That's a good question. This is the first baseline, but
Yeah.
with these learnings, we learn, we specify, or we identify how to improve them
Mhm.
even better, how to improve
Yeah.
even better this program. So let me get there to the
Am
baseline
I
two.
jumping ahead
but
already? I'll
but that's
stay.
a good question, because with baseline two we have a measurement,
Yeah.
and I have an example
Perfect.
m- m- forward, or in another slide. Sorry.
Yeah.
So with those learnings, we get to baseline two. Um, this
Mm.
baseline two is set because of the learnings of the mindset that were very distributed, and we found that LCP, or the model of LCP, leadership circle profile, integrates all these mindsets
Mhm.
and makes it simpler even to understand them. So identifying this model, uh, we run this model for individuals and teams, and we find patterns, right? Because in courageous authenticity, for example, there is the growth and challenger thinking mindset, right?
Mhm.
And value creation is at the right side of the circle, of course, in the creative hemisphere of this, the creative area of the circle. So we mapped the mindsets with the LCP structures. Uh, so we run the LCP model for individuals and teams, and we find patterns. And I'm going to show you some pattern and the
Yeah.
commitments. So we run this and we obtain results. Uh, and with those results in each of our areas, we define or write down a commitment. For example,
Right.
Rudy Estrella writes down a commitment with his balance. I'm talking
Mhm.
about in third person, but so Rudy Estrella write down a commitment with balance that is in the left side of the circle, the
Mhm.
created area of the circle. So with that predefined or set up a commitment, we receive feedback from our peers. Uh, There are two people from the direct team or the core team or of ours, and we receive feedback from a person of the network, a person of other team. Um, and this is the second journey in Roche. I'm going to show you
Yeah.
how some example of this. I don't know if that kind of clear. Please feel free to comment.
I think we're good so far. So I'm just going to, for people who will be listening along
Go
at
ahead.
home, what you're seeing in the bottom lower right-hand quadrant of this particular slide is the results of someone's leadership circle profile assessment. And that's that big wheel that you're seeing down there. So if you ever hear anyone on this call refer to an LCP, that's what it means, is leadership circle profile. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. So I want to show you the first insight in this. So we
Yes.
run the LCPs with everyone in the entire region: Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, Dominican Republic, and the Caribbean. Um, and we found this.
Mm.
Above 60% of people
Yeah.
are committed or write down a commitment regarding courageous authenticity, or in
Yeah.
specific, growth mindset and challenger thinking.
Yeah.
So what does that tell us? That the majority of the system here in Roche, Central America, and the Caribbean want to develop or increase their courageous authenticity.
Mhm.
And that gives us a lot of data. And okay, this is okay.
Yeah.
Let's work on that, and we define some modules, and we define some teams, and we define some communities, and we define some um, strategies to develop courageous authenticity. For example, here in Roche, Central America, and the Caribbean, um, we set up a community named Dare to Lead, because we want to increase courageous authenticity in the people.
Right.
Maybe that's a step forward, but I want to bring that up. So that's an example of optimization, and to
Yeah.
and where to put the money.
No, but that's actually a really good point. Being able to show people, hey, this is where most of the people want to focus, 63% of our population. Therefore, it makes more sense to put more of the resources in that area. Yes, the others will get some, but we're going to put more of our focus here, have the biggest impact there. No, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with the confidence that with the positive correlation we found in the first baseline or the first round with data science, if we can put money investment in this correlation authenticity, but we have the confidence that if we put money in this, the other mindsets will grow too.
Yes.
Right.
I think you're
so
right. Yeah.
That's one of the connection of the points when we have when we found correlations, and there are positive correlation and high correlations. If we put money in here, we know that the other mindset will grow too. Maybe not as fast or as big as we want, but they have their percentage of growth. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I think it does. I think we're good.
Perfect.
I really appreciated you bringing forth the point, being able to show, here's what here's what the people said. And it makes it easy then to make a decision, because you're like, well, I can show you what they said and how it impacts. No, I appreciate that point. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. So, all right. Okay, let's jump to this part of the conversation. That is the part that I want to give you tools, that I want to give you tips to develop your own people analytics program. It's not easy, as we're gonna see.
No, I'm afraid you're gonna make me do math again.
Well, not that. Well, yes, I cannot deny that. So, the first question: what data to capture? What to capture, right? So, based on this approach, that is, we want to see trends of individuals in their mindset and skills integrations. We find the structures of what data to capture, or the part of what data to capture. So we have two dimensions or sources of data. There are the individual dimension and the teams and network dimension, right? So with individual dimension, I'm referring to self-assessments, and with the other dimension, the teams and network dimension, their assessments with their based on their perceptions, right? So those are sources of data. That's the easy part. But okay, this is where it starts to get kind of tricky, because we have or you have to define or set up this data to capture, or the model to capture. So what's the data? When I talk to data for this approach, I'm talking about feedback, right? From ourselves, like a self-assessment, or the other people's perceptions. So, and I want to put emphasis on this word, scales. It's not that easy, right?
No.
It can be on a scale from 0 to 100%, right? I have a 0% of skill integration, or I have an 100% of that integration of that mindset. Or it can be a more qualitative scale. For example, on a scale to 1 to 5, where 1 is that the skill is not evident yet, or 5 where the skill is always evident. 2 is
so it's sort of there, it's like every once in a while I'll pull that skill out. Yeah,
exactly. So this is the first message I want to give you. You have to define the scales that you want to use. Okay. Why? One of the considerations is what kind of scale is more easy for you to understand or to measure and to explain to others, right? The teams, the management, etc., etc., etc. So you have to define the scale, like a Likert scale from 1 to 5, or a scale from 0 to 100%. So, and with and a scale for those, or for each of those dimensions: self-assessment, and other perceptions.
So is it important to use the same scale for both the self-assessment as well as the for others' perceptions?
That's a good question. That's the recommendation. For if you define that the scale is 0 to 100 in self-assessment, it's better that we define the scales for others' perceptions of the peers coaches in a scale from 1 to 100%. Yes,
Okay.
that's the recommendation,
Okay.
because it can get tricky and more complex that later to
I
process.
actually really love that you use the word freaky in there. That's awesome.
All right.
Because data can get freaky, let's be honest. Yeah.
Totally. And when you apply crazy math, it can get more freaky.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to put emphasis in this because the collection of data defines everything.
Mhm.
I want to mention here this phrase, and that is garbage in, garbage out, right?
Mhm.
If you put garbage in a machinery or in a machine,
Kind of like
what
my
you're gonna think?
refrigerator.
Don't tell me. so so if you put garbage in a machine, you're gonna obtain garbage, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a more processed garbage, like in a cube or something like that, but it's
But it's
garbage.
still going to be crap. Yeah.
Exactly. So the context and preconditions and conditions of this data are very important. I want to present, I want to talk with you some of these considerations, and
Mhm.
I would like to amplify this. Um, so the first consideration for feedback, that is the capture, that is the data that we are collecting,
Mhm.
must consider this. Well, I'm using this model. I know that is another models for feedback, but this is the most easy. This is the easiest to explain. Um, we have this matrix of consideration for feedback, and the ideal scenario is that that data, that feedback, is I don't know, is um, considering that is caring personally and is
Okay.
challenging directly.
Okay.
Why? And I want to give you this example. In that scale from 0 to 100%, I put an 70%, but that 70% I put it with a ruinous empathy or with obnoxious aggression.
Mhm.
It's that data is not worthy.
And
The
that goes
X
back to the garbage in, garbage out part.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly, and that bias all the analysis. So this is a subjective, like um, perspective of the
Length.
people.
Yeah.
They when they gave feedback, and when we put ourselves as feedback, we have to be aware that is in this dimension of radical candor, that is caring
Yeah.
personally and that is challenging directly. Of course, for that requires an entire onboarding of the people, an entire understanding of the people of what is this, um, what this is, etc. I put there that triangle and those X because and
Mhm.
that check, of course, because that's the ideal scenario. Because I think at the beginning of everything, the teams uh, or the systems, uh, we're gonna find ruinous empathy. Well,
Mhm.
at least here in Latin America, we're gonna find that ruinous empathy, right? So at the beginning, we maybe the people are giving feedback pointing to that. So, but we have to work on that. It's possible to work on that, right?
Mhm.
But and the people must be very aware of this. I don't know if this is a very direct instruction or recommendation. That is not acceptable that those numbers
Mm.
are pointing to manipulative insincerity or obnoxious aggression, right? I don't know what you think about that, Erin, but if we have an 20% in the data, and that 20% was gave
Yeah,
with obnoxious aggression, so we have that 20% because the Excel and the form and the systems and the database resist that, right? We can capture that 20%,
right.
but the concept, the context, sorry, is one that we don't want. I don't know
Right.
if that makes sense, please.
I think it is starting to make sense. That's something I think I'd want to chew on a lot more, but I even still like the aspect, you get that matrix, and what's coming up, what portion of the population is skewing or has a bias towards that aggression or insincerity. And again, that's just a different way to start thinking about your system as a whole. So would that, and this is just me out of curiosity, um, if you're thinking about your system as the whole big thing, and notice I've got my arms up in a big circle, and this is helping us, the different lenses to view what's happening in that system. Is that a good analogy?
That's a good analogy. Maybe I want to uh, put emphasis in this. Um, let me articulate the thought. Uh, Retaking this context thing, um, before we start to capture data feedback, um,
Ah, it's the
we
preconditions. Like you're, if you're farming, you're improving the soil, you're getting some data and feedback, you're knowing if you need to rotate the crop, if it needs more moisture, is it low on nitrogen? Got
exactly,
it. Thank you.
exactly, exactly. So, rephrasing, we have to the entire system must understand what is radical candor, and only radical candor are acceptable before to put a
Right.
number, right? Before to capture the data.
Mm-hmm.
So that matrix, because I want to rephrase with the population that we have, the audience, and the other structural thing, preparing the ground, is the common theoretical knowledge and the common language.
Yeah.
For example,
Yes.
the entire system must understand or have the concept of
What do we mean
courageous
by that?
authenticity.
Here's how we define that. Right.
Exactly,
Because then
exactly,
you don't wind up with apples and oranges and the spare kumquat over to the side.
exactly. An example of garbage in the data can be, I select people of the network, but it's based on Basel, and they don't have the model of, they don't have the concept of balance regarding LCP or
Right.
courageous authenticity, because we are very good friends, they put she or he gave me 100%.
Right.
That's ruinous empathy as a whole.
Got it. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So is we have to have that common language, that common theoretical knowledge. What
Yeah.
are the concepts? What is courageous authenticity? What is value creation mindset? What is digital mindset? In order to receive feedback and to give feedback when they
So there
ask.
was education in the system even before you started.
Well, that's one of the challenges. Maybe Gabi can tell us later or amplify that, but we have to work in parallel.
Yes.
We kind start to capture data um, before the people receive psychological safety module, for example, right?
Right.
Or for the, and that's the reason of the baseline. The baseline is the LCP,
Mm-hmm.
and the workshops with LCP, which each of the people and each of the teams. So, okay, now that we understand what LCP means and what LCP is and what
Right.
courageous authenticity is, okay, we write down our commitment, and progressively we
Mm-hmm.
receive feedback from our team. And if the people, and if the person that I selected from the network that already received the LCP workshop, he or she can give me feedback. right? So
Yes.
that's kind of the idea. That's kind of the logic of
Right.
this. Is
Yeah,
that clear?
that is. Thank you. That was
Perfect.
very
Perfect.
helpful.
Okay. So this is one. This is the first slide of the preconditions.
Okay.
So, and I went to retake this that Gabby was telling us in the last session. We have preconditions of the preconditions.
Mhm.
if if the system and if the system or the management team or the leadership team is not ready for this,
Mhm.
it doesn't have that intention of improvement or that self of that awareness or that awareness of that we are human beings and we have to develop those mindsets, and nothing is going to work, right?
Right.
Here in Roche Central America and the Caribbean, we have the example of our GM, General Manager, Alvaro Soto, that is totally in this.
Yes.
So that's one of the point of gravity that leads the entire program or the entire culture, right? Um, I want to rescue these specific preconditions. Sorry, that are radical responsibility,
Mhm.
that lean into conflict as a signal that something wants to change, and trust the answers are in the team,
Mhm.
right? So these are precondition of the precondition because they set up for like the framework or like the limits, the boundaries that our culture works on,
Yeah.
right? If we don't interiorize radical responsibility, if we don't interiorize and recognize that the
Conflict.
trust, the answers are in ourselves, we cannot start people analytics. We cannot start an EVOKE program or the
Right.
equivalent that you develop, right?
Yeah.
So, and maybe this can take some time because this requires a lot of powerful conversations between the management team, the leadership team. Okay, are we ready for this? We want this implies this implies this implies this implies
Yeah.
this, etc., etc., etc. So that's the most general preconditions we have to understand. We have to set up with the teams. I, I want, please, here, Erin, please feel free to comment if you want to
Oh, don't worry.
amplify
I always feel
something.
free to comment. No, but I like that you've laid out the preconditions there and that you were thinking about this, in terms of what data you wanted to capture. Okay. Because without those preconditions, I think, it's kind of the Wild West. Let's, be thoughtful this way rather than avoiding the specter of too much. Yes.
Mhm. Correct. And I want to put emphasis again. All these preconditions are needed before to start to capture data.
Yeah.
Even before to set up the scales, the model of scales, we cannot capture data if we don't have these preconditions, because all the data is gonna mean nothing,
Mhm.
right? So that's the reason I invest time in this, because it's very, very important. Um, so thank you, Erin, for
No,
the
but it's,
explanations.
it's,
Mhm.
to quote Office Space, it's planning to plan. But the thing is that pre-work is incredibly important because it really sets the tone for everything as a whole. And it also helps you to avoid, at least I hope it does, kind of the garbage in aspect. Okay.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
I'm still with you, Rudy. You didn't lose me at the math. You're okay.
Great, thank you. Maybe some of my colleagues of data analysis that can listen or watch this video are going to say, "Oh wow," that's the reason, because we have called numbers like sales that are giving numbers, but when we capture numbers regarding people, about people,
Yeah.
requires all these preconditions.
It's the human
Oh, oh,
side. It's the human aspect of this work. Right. Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Exactly. So let's go with the easy part of this. uh, Tools to capture data in your organization, depending of the budget, depending of the resource that you have. Uh, here are some examples.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Roche Central America and the Caribbean, we use Google Forms because it's an online tool and very agile to manage and very easy to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's the Microsoft version that is Microsoft Forms. There is another tool named Paul Polev or Paul Everywhere. There is another tool that I use I use a lot here in Roche for other projects.
Mm-hmm.
That is a smart sheet. Um, with this, we can set up reminders, etc., etc. Actually, well, in this feedback process here in Roche, we use a smart sheet alerts or smart sheet reminders
Mm-hmm.
to support people and to recall this feedback in a monthly basis, right?
Right.
So in order to don't lose data, um, I have to be honest. When you are in a large group of people, well, I don't know, a couple of hundreds, etc., uh, it's possible that the collection of data is not as effective as we will want.
Okay.
So that's a consideration. That's a very important consideration, and it's funny because it recalls to digital mindset. If we are working with digital mindset, we recognize that it's important to capture data. So
Right.
do
Kind of
you use
that.
exactly? It's connecting the points. um, so, for example, if you have a very low percentage of data collection, we have to understand. Okay, maybe it's an user experience. Um, thing, or it's a digital mindset thing because we are not capturing data, we are not collecting data, etc.
Mm-hmm.
We have SurveyMonkey, etc. The tools that you find in the market that you have available in your organizations
Yeah.
are welcome. Of course, I will recommend use the tool that you are more um,
Use the
comfortable.
tool that you know, but also that you think that the population with which you're working will interact with. Right.
Exactly,
Right there
exactly,
with you. Yeah.
exactly. Um, Maybe there is another data analyst or a software engineer that said, "Oh, but I want to use this database form." Feel free,
Right. But the thing is, if you
but the
can't get
user
anybody else
experience
to give you
is
data,
vital.
yeah, I know.
So checkpoint. Um, okay.
Processing the data. Mm.
Uh-huh. So sorry, I want to recall. In these forms or these tools to capture data are going to be the questions related with the scales we want to capture. For example, in a self-assessment based on Google Forms, um, there must be the scales from 1 to 100%.
Right.
From 0 to 100%. So we have to set up that Google Form with that scale, or the questions or the variables that we want to capture. Okay, how to process data is kind of complicated, but it's not that complicated. I hope to be clear.
Oh, it's not
Uh,
complicated for me because I would just kind of pass this over to you. I'm like, Rudy, this is the data that needs to be processed.
exactly.
It's very easy. Very easy.
So I want to explain this model, or how can be easy to apply this model.
Yeah.
So we have different forms.
Mhm.
Each of those forms can be for each of the people. For example, you see there people one, person one, person two, and person three. And in that form, they're gonna find their commitment and the scale, right? So the peers are going to open this link. They're gonna open this Google form, and they're gonna put their feedback and a scale from 0 to 100%, or of course, very important, is always recommended to use or to have an open text to receive qualitative comments, right, or qualitative feedback, to understand why they gave us those numbers. Um, so In this case, for Google Forms, each of these forms resides, the data of this form resides in a Google Sheet that is online. So it's a living tool, and each of these Google Sheet each Google Sheet for each Google Form, it's gonna be one data set or one database for
One point.
person. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So okay, we click on and generate Google Sheet by the form, but it's gonna need a bit of engineering, kind of say engineering, because we have to create an Excel on a spreadsheet that collects all the Google Sheets,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be the main data set, and with that data set defined, we connect the tools for visualization. I'm going to explain about visualizations a couple of slides ahead, but it's needed for that. The recommendation, of course, I don't know. I don't know, of course, the entire context of the organizations, but in this digital era, if you are online, if those are connected online, you're gonna save a lot of work. And I say this as a data analyst because I don't see myself running, taking 2 or 3 days, collecting all the data, putting in one spreadsheet, and then connect it again in a
It gives you a whole new appreciation for researchers, 50 years ago, doesn't it? You're like, oh, that project took a lot of just the manual crunching. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it save us operational risk of missing
Yeah.
data or bad downloadings, etc. Um, well, you see there another spreadsheet, another spreadsheet icon that says list of people with their users and teams. So this main data set that is teams received feedback connects with, for example, with the human resources list and their user of the computers, because when we are going to connect that with the visualization tool, the
Yeah.
visualization tool is going to filter automatically by user.
Yes. Yes. And it also, I would think by having this, it would make it easier sometimes to slice the data. So it's like, hey, I just want to look at this particular chunk this way. And it gives you a lot of different options on how you want to, for lack of a better term, slice and dice, and take a look at where do you want to do a deeper dive? Do you need to pull back? Hey, what about this particular chunk of Central America? What about people with this back? Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly. So those are great examples of how to analyze data, and they give us some preamble, to understand some of the examples that I
All
bring
right,
for
bring
you.
it forward, Rudy.
All right. So tools for visualization, of course, is going to depend of the budget, the resource that you have. We have these examples in the market.
Yep.
Tableau, Power BI, that is the Microsoft tool. Data Studio, that I strongly recommend. If you are going to use Google Form, I strongly recommend Data Studio, because
Okay.
if you are using the G Suite or the platform of Google, you have Data Studio by default. So
Okay.
it's very easy to connect Data Studio with that main data set, and it's gonna be a living tool. It's gonna be a living visualization. There are other fancy tools like SAS and Oracle BI and other ones. I think that SAP have a tool too. But if you don't have, if you feel more comfortable with Excel, use Excel. Excel have great examples or great tools for visualizations, graphs, etc. Actually, some of the Well, the most of the slides for in the example of analytics are based on Excel. I made it this on Excel. So if you want to use this data, because if you want to use this, because it's more
I know a lot of people, analysts and the like, who live in Excel, consultants and the like, healthcare, they, so much as possible. It's mind boggling. Yeah.
Correct. Excel is the entire world. Well, actually, I started my career with Excel. I started with accounting, and Excel is the main tool.
You've gone beyond there. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So feel free to use the best tool.
Let's see some examples.
All right. Let's go to the fancy part of this and to discuss. I have to give this preamble. All the most of this example are based on dummy data. So I generate a data set.
But I very much appreciate that you did that, holding, because we're talking about people here and we need to respect their privacy and their views and the like. So thank you for taking the time to mock up dummy data, to put examples in so that we can still see it, but protecting the people you serve. Thank you.
Exactly. No, a pleasure. So let's have this conversation. This insightful conversation, these powerful conversations. So a couple of slides ago, we talked about the data that is needed to capture, that is feedback, and by two dimensions: self-assessment and the others' perceptions, my peers' perceptions or coaches' perceptions, etc. So I'm using a scale from 0 to 100%, understanding like 100% of integration of skills, right? Or in a specific skill, or 100% of visibility of a commitment regarding LCP or regarding a structure of LCP, right? So I put these trends because one of these is the self-assessment with data, with dummy data, with almost 2 years of data, and we have the perceptions. Maybe you're gonna ask, why are they different? Because it's possible. It's very possible. Maybe the people that knows a little bit of LCP. In LCP, we have two measurements. We have a gray line. We have a gray line with our
own assessment.
Exactly, and we have the gray area with other green area or gray area with others average.
Others,
right?
Yes.
Exactly. So that's the spirit of this and of this couple of graphs of visualizations, because we can maybe there are differences. For example, in the last point of data of the self-assessment, it says 68%, and my peer says that exactly. So that difference can happen, and this recalls to a very human mindset or preconditions or bias that we are very hard to ourselves, right? That's one possibility.
The other thing I remember with doing the LCP, it really highlighted my own imposter syndrome. I was like, oh.
Exactly, the imposter syndrome.
I was like, oh.
And I made this example on purpose to understand, okay, we have a difference. Maybe this imposter syndrome, maybe I'm very hard to myself. And it's very important that I have these visualizations to understand, okay, but my peers that are, I don't know,
right.
3,
I really
5,
like that
10.
phrase you used there. I made this example on purpose. And it feels like you were creating your own learning from that. What do I need to take away? Wow. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and for that, and for that insight, because it's an insight, it's very important that people have their own individual dashboard, or there is a collective dashboard, right? Or a dashboard by team. Because if I have my dashboard here in my phone or in my computer, because oh wow,
right,
I consider myself in a 30%, and people on my peers and team says that I'm 70%. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
We go back to the entire philosophy of this, right? How Am I courageous to myself? I am vulnerable. That
Idea
is
for
very
you,
important.
Rudy. Idea for you. Be able to have like snapshots, like digital snapshots that people can put on their computer or their mirror, like sticky notes. And they're like, remember, I'm a 78. I'm not 32 like I think I am. Yeah, it's kind of a pep talk.
Exactly, and it's based on data.
Yeah.
So
And it's
I
based
know
on data. It's not just, yeah, it's based
uh,
on data. Hmm.
exactly, and 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 one powerful thing that when we have data is that we can be more vulnerable with ourselves. We have, in this particular
Yeah.
case, we can have self-compassion,
Ah,
and that recalls to courageous authenticity, and that recalls to balance, and that recalls to not being in the tendency to not be in the tendency in the
right.
reactive tendencies. So that's kind of the philosophical thought, the psychological conversation that we have, the internal
And I'm
dialogue that
also
we have.
hearing kind of how we even titled this conversation to begin with, the power of data to optimize transformation. Yeah. Data is not
Exactly,
cold and cruel and heartless. You know,
exactly,
it's not. It just gives us, hey, this is where you are now. You know, this is how you see yourself, but here's how others see you. And then it gives us a starting place for the conversation. What's the difference between the two? What aren't
exactly,
we seeing? Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I want to rescue here. To obtain this, we only have to use a form
Hmm.
with a scale from 0 to 100%,
Yeah.
and you have to click on. Of course, the complicated part is to consolidate the data, but we can be here. We can have all these conversations. We are will be enabled to have this conversation with ourselves with only that tool, with that simple
Mhm.
tool, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the individual dimension. If I have a dashboard or a published um, visualization, I can make these
Yeah.
insights. Um, okay, it,
More
let's
examples.
imagine let's imagine that we are something like a data analyst or a team
Mhm.
manager or you're in the leadership team or the management team, um, or you
Yeah.
are in a role like Gavi or the EVOKE team. Uh, in the left side, we have an example of how the teams can be distributed,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna take the the first box that says Team A.
Okay.
Each of these,
Ah,
each of that points is a person.
right.
That that 80, that 76, that 55, that 34,
54.
that 50, that 25 is one person. Maybe in Team A, I have an influencer that is Erin Randall with that 80%. But at the same time, with that graph, with that visualization, I can notice that I have one person in my team that is in the 20 that is in the 25% integration of the skill that person selected. So me,
Yeah.
uh, we as leadership team, as coaches, etc., we can optimize and strategize again with
It's
the
like,
team.
hey, we're seeing, you know, we have a lot of people up there around 80 and 100, but there's also a significant number that are down in the 20s and 30s. So as coaches,
Exactly,
what do we need to do to help those boats rise to there? Where do we need to
exactly,
circle back? What are we
exactly.
missing?
You can have you can focus resources, you can time, etc.,
Right.
speeches, etc. I want to mention this visualization in specific, that those boxes are named box plots. Uh, I want to say this: great power comes with great responsibility,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
here you can understand or visualize where the people are
Yes.
in the most recent time, right? So great power comes with great responsibility.
I think the ethics of data analysis and the like are probably a very separate conversation. And I don't know enough about analytics and what goes into it, but I would imagine that there's a large field around the ethics of what goes on with a lot of that. There has to be, because these are people, whether it's around just protecting privacy, but also being, is your heart in the right place as you're thinking through some of this? How do you want to be of service to these people that are represented by these points? Yeah. Thank you, Rudy, for bringing that forward. No,
I
it's a
don't have
really
to.
important point. It's a very important point. Thank you.
Correct. No, thank you for the opportunity. So this visualization specific is very powerful.
Mhm.
We have to be humans with this visualization.
Yeah.
We cannot take actions in a biased way. We cannot take
Or in a vacuum.
Exactly. So
Right.
great power comes with great responsibility, especially for this visualization where when we are watching and analyzing each of these people by team.
Mhm.
So thank you. The other one is like a distribution of the entire system, right?
Mhm.
Well, system or team, you can split it by the variable that you want to use. Teams, like business operations, like sales, like customer experience, etc. So you can split it. You can split it freely. But this, I'm using another scale, as you can see.
Mhm.
The scales from not evident yet to always evident. The commitment, the skill, etc.
Mhm.
And there you can find those percentages. In this case, the highest bar says is telling us that 50% of people of this team or the system are um,
They're
they're
displaying these, they're displaying that behavior quite often. So
exactly
it's starting to rise, right? Yeah.
exactly. Uh, and again, we have that group that their commitment or skills are not evident yet, occasionally, and we can strategize again and again and again and again, right? The idea is
Right.
that we move forward to often evident, usually evident, always evidence, because with those statistics, we're gonna know that the system is integrating mindsets and skills.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's clear.
No, that's very clear.
Thank you. We have, sorry. All right. So,
Mm. As
our,
a system, right.
exactly, as a system, when you put together all the data, um, you can obtain the entire evolution or progress of the system. So in this case, that 83% is telling us that the system already integrated the skills in an 83% of the time, or in their activities, in their beings, um, and of course we can see the trend. And
Yeah.
one of the most powerful insight of the trends that is that it gave us like a pulse. That's
Yes.
correct, a pulse.
Yes.
Um, time in a timely manner. So we
Yes.
at the end of each month we can understand how that trend is going to be. And for example, I will take that 70% or that 70 that is on July 2022.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, if we do a respect if we sorry um, if we do a retrospective, we understand that when we are at the moment we are in that 70%, we haven't boosted our skills integrations. So
Yeah.
an example is, okay, we are in July 2022. We're still in the 30s range, and we are in the 20%. Okay, let's invest the resources to boost
Right.
these programs, right?
But I
And that
imagine you
led.
could also think of this, as you analyze this, you could think about what had happened in the system. Had there been a cataclysmic event here, or, was someone brought in? Was there a shift? What was going on? Rudy, you're helping me to think about data as it's a voice of the system. It's just a different voice,
You nailed
one
it.
that we hadn't thought of, perhaps.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Is the
And maybe
complement
it's a way of
of the voice of the
giving
system.
voice to something that might have been unspoken, unheard previously.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. It is the complement, is the registration of, if I
yeah,
can say, of the voice of the system,
yeah,
based on data, based
yeah,
on clean data, based
yeah,
on that, we all know that we have the common language, or we have the theoretical knowledge.
yeah. All right, so I'm
So,
going to ask you to bring it forward because I want to save a little bit of room here at the end for questions.
sorry again, sorry.
I'm going to ask you to bring things forward, to keep it, because I want to save a little bit of room at the end for questions.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of the trend of the organization, the voice of the system. Thank you. So we haven't response the first question of all: how can we measure impact on business?
Yes.
This is the entire evolution of the skills
Yeah.
integrations, but it's necessary to understand how can this impact on the business. Um, for you to 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 improve, of course, resources on this. Again, it's everything about learnings and in optimizing resources and time, money, etc. So, but after all that previous analytics, how can we really measure impact on business?
How can we?
So I want to present you this.
Okay.
We have to
94 positive correlation, positive incidence. Yeah.
exactly.
Ah,
When we put together
yeah.
two trends, two lines, we can see, we can analyze
You just
how
justified your entire program.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Justified, to boost it, etc.
And
Of
you could
course,
put anything in there if you wanted sales versus you could put job satisfaction in there, for you could put retention in, you could put, you know, how against objectives, achievement of different objectives. Yeah. Perfect.
you're taking some steps forward, but I'm gonna be there. But thank
You're
you.
like, got it. Good.
Great. Thank you very much. Uh, I want to put emphasis in this because we don't know the reality of the organization and the teams. Uh, this is this is the hypothesis,
Yeah.
right? The hypothesis is, if we improve our skills, if we integrate uh, skills, the business outcomes can improve too, or they are going to improve too,
Yeah.
right? In this case, I'm just putting sales because it's the most easy to
It's
process
a
in our
common,
minds, but it
right.
can be key results regarding customer satisfaction, etc.,
Sure.
etc. And that leads me to the comment that you were saying. There can be a lot of trends, or a lot of source of data, or a lot of measurements or comparisons. We can have their sales, we can have their key results of customer experience, and we can have their key results of
Customer satisfaction.
customer satisfaction, those enterprise program and responsibilities, something like
Yeah.
that. You can, I'm trying to say, you can take all the key results that you defined in your strategy and compare their evolution with the evolution and the progress and the integration of the skills of the people.
Yeah.
And the hypothesis is when we work in ourselves, the outcomes of the business can be
Right.
better.
Right.
So in this example, with this
Do
dummy
the
data,
internal work for external impact.
exactly. Thank you very much for that. Exactly.
By the way, for those watching at home, he did not feed me that phrase. That was one I came up with on my own. Running that.
Exactly. Thank you. So in this example, we can see the trends. You can see they have positive trends because they are growing up, etc., etc. And if we want for you coaches and for you those that have an skills integration programs, you can say, or maybe you can you will be able to say, okay, my program, well, our program, and have a positive incidence in the outcomes of business in an X%. In this case, a 94.91%, right?
Yeah.
And that justifies.
And it makes it a lot easier to say, well, here's why we do this work. Here's why it is X amount. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, of course, I have to bring some of the data here in Roche, Central America and the Caribbean. At the moment, we have 6 months with this second baseline based on LCP workshops, and the data is telling us that the progress of the people, the progress of ourselves, have a positive incidence in the sales with a 35.85%. And we are just starting.
And we've literally, we're not even quite a year in, are we?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So our entire region, with the progress is already is having an impact. And of course, this is sales, but as data analyst, I have the outcome. I have the aspirational to measure the other key results that we set up in our strategy. To say, okay, in the key result of implementing personalized healthcare, the skills integration of digital mindset, and have a positive incidence on 80%. That's the kind of the strategic results, insights that we can build.
And I think the word strategy is incredibly important there. It's using, we talk optimizing transformation, but making a strategic objective, and bringing that in. Wow.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you, Erin. I want to receive feedback. First of all, does this have sense?
So let's take this. So go ahead and stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
And we'll take a couple minutes here just for questions and the like. So my first one would be, what did you personally learn by doing this work?
Well, and I don't have I have like 10 months. I was calculating, and here I don't have a year yet. But my first learning is we have to prioritize people, because without people, we cannot achieve any outcome in any industry, in any kind of business. So my first learning is we have to prioritize people, but prioritizing they're human beings, right? They're human beings, not the performance or you as a human being.
Yeah.
So that's one of my first learnings. And of course, actually I was at I work in banking sector, so there was cold numbers, and for me, even when I had read people analytics and measurements, I said, okay, and making a contrast with my philosophical point of view of the life and the literature that is basically culture and subjective things, I say, okay, maybe it's impossible to measure how can we develop ourselves. I know we can track ourselves in health, etc. But how can I say that I'm more aware of my courageous authenticity? How
No,
can
but
I
I
connect?
think you
So
can,
at
Edgar.
the beginning,
You've
I was
shown that you
accepting.
can.
I did. I have no idea how can we make this. So I met Roche, I met Gabi and Carlos, my boss, and I said, "Wow!" So
Mhm.
and then my my brain was free to think and to develop with them. Good day.
So
Sorry.
because I'm also an Agile coach, I will of course ask
I
this question. Oh, Gab,
Oh,
I heard you had
sorry.
to go.
Sorry, I just, before leaving, I just wanted to recognize Rudy because it is so energizing and in so many ways inspiring to work with him. As you can see in his face, he lives this, he lives our mindsets. And this whole effort came out of a sandbox, trying out things didn't work, other things work, and so on. And it's having that real mindset of learning by doing, seeing the progress, being able to go through it. And yeah, thank you, Rudy. It has been a real pleasure to be your partner.
Thank you, Gabi.
I mean,
I
Rudy,
just
what a great way to start your Wednesday here. Yeah, when you're doing this.
totally thank
But
you.
Gabby brought forward, and Gab, I know you have to go, so it's okay. I've got it from here. You know, as we think about inspect and adapt, that iterative development going forward, what would you do differently now, having gotten 10 months in?
Well, that's a good question. I will say that I will. Okay. After the LCP workshops, I I would prefer to have like a checkpoint meeting with everyone. Are you are you okay with this like a checkpoint after the LTP workshop? Are you okay with this concept? With this concept? With this concept? Are you okay with this process? Are you okay with what feedback means? Okay, let's start with that because we had some bumps in the road. And what is this commitment? What is for? Okay, so I have to retake. I had to invest a lot of time with checking meetings to explain again this. So maybe that's because we lost some of data, etc. But that's one of the things I will make different.
What would you want someone else attempting to do something like this? What would you want them to know?
Can you give me an example?
So if a different organization were attempting to optimize its own transformation, what advice would you give them?
Ooh.
He's like, we need another session, Aaron.
We need exactly. We need Gabi for this. So if okay, I'm gonna recall the preconditions. First of all, the management team or the leadership team first make a pause in your lives and let's start to talk with this. Right. So that's my first recommendation. Please take time, take a pause in your life to understand some of your internal sense, your yes, that kind of things, and how will you how can you impact your people, not the business itself. The first word, the people. How can you are considering people? How are you seeing people? So that's
I like that. You know, how are you seeing people? That's a really great question. And I'll end with just this one. How do you want to make this better? How do you want to improve?
Okay. I must recall to the digital mindset. How I want to improve this. I would like to sit with everyone, each of the person, but of course we have to manage time, to talk with them based on data.
Okay.
Why? Because I have the uncertainty if they are making good interpretations or good feelings, or they are just given by default that this is going to that this need to happen. So I would like to sit with everyone else to have these powerful conversations, me and the coaches and Gabby, etc. So that's kind of the idea. I don't know if that's clear.
No, but I hear you always coming back to the human perspective, the heart of this. Yeah, and that's beautiful. So Rudy, I'm going to close this part of the conversation down. And I very much appreciate, number one, you taking us through the math on this, but helping us understand how you visualize the data and what the intent was behind it. And also being transparent and open and honest about, here's what I learned, here's what I do differently, but always bringing it back to people.
For me, it's a great pleasure, Erin. I hope everyone that listen this or watch this, success. I wish success for everyone else, and please feel free to experiment with yourselves and your teams and with this kind of things that are very sexy and very fancy and very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.